Hello everyone. This story follows Lytuky, an ordinary girl who suddenly becomes the target of a notorious crime boss after uncovering his dark secrets. During a dangerous chase, she is protected and accompanied by Officer Henry. Through countless life-threatening moments, Henry's sincerity and courage gradually touch Lytuky's heart. After the crime boss is captured, Henry expresses his feelings with a simple yet heartfelt proposal. At first, Lytuky hesitates, but in the end, she says yes, opening a new chapter full of hope and happiness. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming exciting content. The gray sky hung low over the city like a final curtain drawn over months of chaos. After countless days of strategizing, chasing, and brushing with death, police officer Henry and the special task force had finally succeeded in capturing the crime boss, the mastermind behind a series of cold-blooded plots and the relentless pursuit of Lytuken. The news spread rapidly across headlines, but for Henry and Lytuky, this wasn't just the end of a criminal case, it was the beginning of a new life. This crime boss was no ordinary criminal. He was the head of a notorious underground organization, with a sprawling network, immense wealth, and influence that reached far and deep. Behind his polished exterior and smooth words lay a ruthless heart, one that didn't hesitate to destroy anyone threatening his power. When Lytuky, a seemingly ordinary woman, accidentally uncovered confidential files related to his arms trafficking and money laundering operations, she instantly became a target. Her life was turned upside down overnight. And it was that very night she met Henry. Henry, a police officer assigned to protect the witness, had approached her as part of his duty. But over time, he began to see the pain, the helplessness, and the fear in her eyes. And he made a decision not just to protect her as a law enforcer, but with his whole heart. The two of them lived on the run, constantly alert. Henry moved her from place to place, always staying one step ahead of the assassins sent by the organization. There were nights when Lytuky curled up in a dark corner, too afraid to sleep, feeling only a sliver of safety when Henry gently held her hand and whispered, "I'm here." His unwavering calm and strength became the only thing that kept her grounded during those darkest hours. The raid to capture the crime boss was a meticulously planned operation, involving a large team and the utmost secrecy. Henry knew that even the smallest mistake could cost them everything, and that Lytuky's life could be at risk once more. That night, at a southern dockyard, after hours of intense gunfire and heart-pounding pursuit, the crime boss was finally subdued. As the cold steel handcuffs clicked around the wrists of the man who had once inspired terror in so many, Henry stood nearby, his uniform stained with dirt and blood, his expression exhausted yet burning with quiet resolve. While his team celebrated the long-awaited victory, Henry turned toward the shadows, where Lytuky stood, tears in her eyes, trembling as if she couldn't quite believe the nightmare was truly over. He walked to her and gently squeezed her hand, a silent gesture filled with meaning. "You're safe now. He'll never hurt you again." And in that moment, both of them understood this was the beginning of a new chapter. No more hiding, no more fear-filled nights. Only peace remained, and a love that had quietly taken root in the middle of the storm. After the crime boss was officially arrested and charged, Henry and Lytuky were finally able to breathe a true sigh of relief. The days of hiding in the shadows, running from the blade of death, had come to an end. But peace didn't arrive like a miracle, it came slowly, quietly, seeping into each moment, wrapped in both comfort and the lingering weight of past wounds. Henry didn't confess his feelings right away. He understood that Lytuky needed time to heal, to believe that what they were living now was real, not some fragile dream that might shatter at any moment. Yet in that quiet space between them, love began to grow, like a seedling in the rainy season, gentle, steady, and quietly resilient. One early autumn afternoon, with golden sunlight draping the quiet country roads, Henry took Lytuky out of the city. There were no sirens, no roaring engines, only the sound of wind rustling through the trees and the quiet steps of two people walking side by side. He brought her to a small hill, where the view stretched wide across the golden rice fields ready for harvest. The air was fresh, calm, as if all the pain they had endured had finally been carried away by the wind. They stood together in silence, watching the sun sink into the horizon. Just as the sky began to burn with orange and gold, Henry turned to her. He stepped forward slowly, then suddenly knelt down on one knee, holding out a simple yet elegant ring. "Lytuky," he began, his voice trembling slightly, though his gaze remained firm, "when I first met you, I thought it was just an assignment. But the more storms we survived together, the more I realized, you became the reason I kept fighting. I want to protect you not just for justice, but because I love you. I can't imagine life without you." Lytuky was stunned. She hadn't expected a proposal, not now, not here. There were no flowers, no planned speeches, only open sky and the wind brushing her face. But it was real, and it was honest. She looked at him, her heart unsteady. In that moment, countless memories flashed through her mind, the times he shielded her from bullets, the nights he stayed awake watching over her, the way his eyes softened whenever she was afraid. And yet, the past had left its marks. She whispered, I don't know, Henry. I'm still scared. So much has happened. I don't know if I can truly believe in peace, or if we'll be dragged back into danger again." Henry didn't rush her. He remained kneeling, patient, his expression gentle. "I can't promise life will always be peaceful. But I promise I'll always be with you, whether under the sun or through the storm. Love doesn't need to begin with perfection. It only needs two people who won't let go, even when everything falls apart." A single tear slipped down her cheek, not from fear, but from something warmer. Her heart, guarded for so long, began to feel again. She saw it now, this wasn't just a proposal. It was a vow from a man who had risked everything for her and was now offering his future with nothing but sincerity and courage. Lytuky looked into his eyes and gently reached for his hand, the one holding the ring. And deep within her, the answer began to take shape, as clear as sunlight breaking through after the rain. Henry remained on one knee under the golden glow of the setting sun, his eyes fixed on Lytukai's face. Time seemed to stand still. The silence between them was so complete, it felt like even their heartbeats could be heard. He said nothing more, no pressure, no rush. Just quiet, patient waiting. This silence was not uncomfortable, it was the breath they both needed after a long journey through storms. Lytuky looked at the hand holding the ring, the same hands that once held a gun to protect her, that pushed her out of the line of fire, that gripped her tightly when fear overwhelmed her. Now, those hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from hope. In his eyes, she saw everything a man could give to the woman he loves: honesty, protection, trust, and unwavering devotion. "I once thought I could never believe in love again," Lytuky whispered, her voice shaking, though her gaze was steady. "My life, ever since I met you, has been one long nightmare. But in that darkness, you were the only light that led me out of the abyss." Henry gently squeezed her hand, a soft smile forming on his lips as emotion welled in his eyes. "There were nights I woke up not knowing where I was," she continued, "but I'd reach out for you, instinctively. You didn't need to say anything. Just being there reminded me that I was still alive." She paused, lowering her gaze to the ring in her palm. It didn't sparkle like the diamonds in luxury stores, but to her, it meant more than anything. It was a symbol of love forged through blood, tears, and sacrifice. Lytuky lifted her head and met his eyes. Then, softly, she nodded. "Yes, I will." For a moment, Henry couldn't believe what he'd heard. He rose quickly, wrapping his arms tightly around her as if afraid she might disappear like a dream. Lytuky held him just as firmly, and for the first time after everything they had been through, she cried, not from fear or pain, but from happiness. The sun had dipped behind the hill, but its light still lingered on the clouds. Henry gently slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands trembling with emotion. In that moment, they didn't need to say anything more. They had walked through hell, stared death in the face, and loved each other through circumstances most people would only see in movies. And now, when all was finally quiet, their love still stood unshaken, complete, and heartbreakingly beautiful. A few birds flew across the sky, leaving delicate streaks of freedom against the dusky blue. Henry and Lytuky walked hand in hand down the hill, following a narrow path into the future, a future where their wounds would slowly heal, and where their love could finally grow. No longer a story of escape, but a lifelong journey they would walk together.